Welcome to Growing Stronger Every Day, a video series which focuses on building stronger rural communities. In this video series, you'll hear from industry professionals about how getting calf nutrition right can have long-term impacts on the profitability of your herd. Through this series, we will also interview professionals who are passionate about rural and regional health and making a difference in our communities. Welcome, Dr. Bob James. Great to have you here in Laverton in Victoria. We've been very lucky to be spending a bit of time with Bob over the last week, and we're going to do a bit of an interview with him today just around some key points around calf rearing. But Bob, just beforehand, just for the folks out there, can you just give a bit of an introduction to your illustrious career?
Well, thanks, and it's a real pleasure to be here. This is actually my third time in Australia in about the last 12 months. But anyway, I belong to a consulting group. We're based in the upper Midwest. It's called GPS Dairy Consulting, and I'm their calf specialist, and that's strictly where I focus my business. I'm located in Virginia, which is on the East Coast, and in 2016 I retired after a long career at Virginia Polytechnic Institute in their dairy science department. So I taught and did research, worked with farmers. Also had a consulting business and kind of worked across the U.S. and some South America, Asia, and also in Europe, and enjoy working with farmers and enjoy working in the dairy industry.
And Bob, you know, what we focus on as a company is obviously manufacturing calf milk replacer,
Sure.
But we're also conscious that a lot of people out there have access to what we call waste milk.
Yep.
Can you just give us you know, for those who are using waste milk, what are the things we need to be conscious of? You know, what are the risks?
Yeah, and I've been involved a good bit in the U.S. because that's also a practice in the U.S. The farmer says, boy, I have some milk that I can't ship into the human food market, so I've got to use it on the farm. And I think, again, the mindset needs to be, we need to have the same mindset of treating that milk just like we did if we're going to sell it into the markets. So we think about where it comes from the cow. We need to minimize the bacterial growth in that milk and try and maintain its quality and come into the calf. And that's a challenge on the farm because we either have to feed it very quickly or refrigerate it. And I do realize that some of that technology is not available for the calf. And the other one is disease risk, because we do have diseases that are passed through the milk. And again, my standard recommendation in the U.S. is if we're going to feed milk and if we've purchased animals, we probably need to pasteurize that milk before we feed it to the babies, just like we would with the human feed, so that we reduce the numbers of bacteria, potentially disease-causing bacteria in that milk, and then preserve that quality to feeding it. And that's a big, big challenge. And you know, really dairying is about risk management, and I think there's where milk replacer comes in, because when you open up that bag milk replacer, you know, if it comes from a reliable company such as MaxCare, I'm confident that it's low in bacteria count, it's going to have the protein that's on the bag and the fat that's on the bag, and so I've taken out that to me, that concern of risk to herd health to the health to that calf.
And Bob, just around calf milk replacer, you know, sort of the best ways to use it, and I suppose even when we're feeding whole milk, you know, where should farmers really focus? You know, if around, you know, we've talked a lot around that first 5 to 6 weeks. And
yeah.
We want to just talk around a bit.
Yeah, and we want to have it very digestible for the calf, and calves are kind of like people. You know, they like consistency, so they like to get fed at the same time. They like to have the same level of nutrients in there, so that means kind of some accurate mixing if we're dealing with milk replacer, to where we get the right amount of powder and the right amount of water, and ultimately that, you know, that comes from weighing it out and mixing that and thoroughly mixing it and then getting it to the calf in a clean container. Now, the challenge we have on some farms in Australia is that, you know, these are seasonal dairies, and when we're in our calving season, there are a lot of challenges in terms of having enough labor available to take care of these babies. And there's where some compromises are made, because we're under some real big stresses of time. Some things that are done here that probably are not done, that we don't see being done in the U.S. are once a day feeding.
Yep.
And when we think about that baby, that's really pretty tough on them. You know, again, if we think about the comparison to a human infant, we feed them several times a day. This calf really, to grow and survive optimally, needs to be fed more than once a day. So ideally for me is, boy, at least that first 30 days, we got to feed it at least twice a day if we possibly can. And delay that once a day feeding as long as we possibly can. And I realize we run into those compromises, but we need to think of that as an infant. We feed it once a day, and what happens is the nutrition all runs out sometime overnight, and we need to. They're going to start mobilizing body fat, and if it's not there, they'll mobilize protein, and then we wind up an animal that's going to be kind of susceptible to becoming ill. We've got to feed enough milk, and traditionally we fed 4 liters of milk a day. And when the weather's a little bit cold, or by cold I mean probably less than 4, 5, 6 degrees C, or if it's very hot, above 40, their energy requirements actually go up, and 4 liters is not even going to meet their energy requirements, and that's a real challenge.
Yeah. And Bob, sort of, you're coming to the end of your trip now.
Yeah.
Is there anything, I suppose, you know, you've given us a lot of advice over the last couple of days, but is there anything, I suppose, you want to leave us with that, you know, that we really need to focus on here?
You know what, when I talk to folks, I said, how many of you like change? And I guess if I was saying one thing, be prepared to change. You know, I think we all have the propensity to get stuck doing what we've done in the past. And you know what they say, insanity is, and doing the same thing and expecting a different result. Times change. And I think that we've got to change with it. And yeah, we have some challenges, but we've got to figure a way with facilities on our farm, with some of the technology, that we can take better care of our calves and hopefully make them a whole lot better and much more productive cow. I've seen changes in the last 5 years in calf and replacement rearing, probably more in the last 5 than I've seen in the previous 20. And to me, the potentials are really pretty exciting if we think about how we do something rather than why we can't do it.
Yeah. Well, Bob, it's been a real pleasure having you here the last few days, and thanks for taking the time to visit Australia again, and it's been a real pleasure. So thanks very much, Bob.
Thank you. It's been a lot of fun. I've enjoyed it.
Thanks.